Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Borkano game video. Today's video is dedicated to stage pushing, so let's jump right into it. One of the first things I wanted to show you, this is from a Taiwanese forum, and credits to the Elite Discord for finding this forum post specifically. And what's happening here is, if you have below the recommended CP for a stage, you will essentially deal less damage. Alright, some of you are wondering, like, how does that work? What are you talking about? So, for example, I'll show it right here. I am at 126,000 CP. This stage requires me to be at least at 157,000. So what this chart is saying is that if I'm below this threshold, my characters will deal less damage. And I'll play some footage where essentially my Nina is dealing more damage as I increase the amount of partners and the amount of CP, the recommended CP I have for a stage. You'll notice that she's dealing more damage, and of course it's up to you whether you want to believe me or not, but this is one of the first tips that I wanted to provide, even though I'm not applying it myself, is that you can increase your CP to essentially stage push. That is going to be a huge factor in order to properly deal the correct damage for each partner that you have, alright? So if you're wondering why all of a sudden your characters are dealing less damage in certain areas, that's just because the stage will pretty much hinder you from progressing because you are not at the recommended CP rates. Alright, let's jump into the next thing, and that's going to be your leaders, alright? Your leaders are pretty much going to be the largest factor that determine your progression within the game. I'm not saying that you can't progress with certain leaders, I'm saying your leader will determine what sort of playstyle you will have. So for example, the most free-to-play friendly leader technically, and that's from my experience, is going to be Nightmare Hunter. And a lot of you are asking, why is that? It's because of his abilities where essentially the lower energy cost that your overall lineup has, the increase in damage you will do. So 14 less energy or damage done to enemy leaders will increase by 30%, and then stuff like this where collect 80% of partners whose energy is less than 14, and your partner's attack will increase by 15%. Some of y'all are wondering, what does that even mean? So if you go into your partners section and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that you have a bunch of characters that are collected. So what happens here is that I have only 2 characters that are left that are below the 14 energy threshold, right? Therefore, I meet the requirement of having 80% of my partner roster, and I can now deal, or I have 15% more attack. So some of you are wondering, alright, what does that make the Paladin leader, right? Because the Paladin leader doesn't work he works the exact opposite way. Well, believe it or not, he is going to be the leader for you if you have a high energy team. And specifically because, if you have an lineup that's average energy is more than 14, then increases initial energy by 5. So you come out with more energy, your partners deal more damage, and right here it says, activation of this skill, 80% of partners whose energy is more than 15, increases allied partners' attack by 15%. So, I don't have that because I don't have enough SSR characters, right? For this specific reason, because he allows you to use your SSRs more frequently, right? This is your SSR leader. This is a leader that you are going to transition into if you are going to be using higher energy, and he's going to provide you the energy in order to use those characters, right? So which one is better? Some of you are wondering, which one is better, Nightmare Hunter or Light Paladin? I mean, they speak for themselves. If you want to run a more like free-to-play friendly team, then you can use Nightmare Hunter. But obviously, in the long run, Light Paladin will be a stronger leader because he can use SSRs, and SSRs, of course, with more dupes, right? The keyword dupes, they will perform better. Now, I haven't been talking about the Sakura Swordsman because he has weird leader skills. He wants it so that you're running Saya Nina, have a damage resistance rate, and then he wants you to only deploy all partners for the class. So for example, you run 1 guardian, 1 attacker, 1 spellcaster, 1 light, all those different units. And that's kind of cumbersome to run in a lineup because there's some units that are just not particularly good within certain lineups. So for example, I don't like running too many light units or too many summon units or some summon units in particular because I don't find value in them in my case because I'm running a very low energy team, so it doesn't make sense for me, right? Plus this energy balance scale is kind of wonky because even if you for example, right, if I have a lineup right here with Sakura Swordsman, and if I put in Pan, see, look right here, I have the ability like triggered. If I put in Pan, it denies my leader skill. If I take out Pan, it instantly starts working. Like, I think that's a bug, right? I have more than 3 casters, you know, my other abilities are going off, but as soon as I input Pan in here, it ruins everything. So I think this leader is bugged because he dislikes Pan, but that's outside of the point, right? That's completely outside of the point. I just wanted to showcase, like, I wish this leader wasn't like that biased towards Pan. The next leader that you are going to probably, and this is the best leader currently in the game, and that's going to be Soul Reaper. And that's because of his specific ability, his skill 2, you can't see it, but you can run him in Illusion Corridor if you like, and he grants 2 rounds of invincibility. And that's why you want this leader, and he's going to be unlockable at Collapse 14, which is currently the hardest like stage in the entire game is Collapse 14. I've only been able to get 5 stars out of this stage. It's stupid hard, and it's crazy the amount of requirements in order to like pretty much progress through that area. Alright, so you already talked about leaders, you've talked about lineup, and pretty much like, you know, if you base your lineup off of a leader, you will be successful, right? So I'm gearing up my team, for example, to be a Sork team in the future. See my Nightmare leader, he has like 4 Sorks in here. I just need to add 1 more Sork and I can run the Coffin leader in the future, because that's my transition plan once I acquire him, since I believe Sorks are very powerful in this game. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can, you know, feel free to go into something else, because this is all based off of personal preference and personal playstyle, right? So let's talk about partners and pretty much the upgrade succession within this game. So in order to limit break or, you know, go past certain levels, there's a certain order that you need to upgrade characters. For example, you don't have to do it this way, but this is the way the game pretty much pushes you to upgrade. Attackers, sorcerers, and guardians will always be the 3 characters that are going to be the easiest to upgrade, alright? And the reason being is because their collapse medals unlock the fastest, alright? It's really weird that it works out this way, but these 3 are going to be the main focus, and specifically attacker. The next ones that you're going to focus is heal and summon. I don't use these characters, so to me it doesn't really matter. But then it's going to be light and spell. I only have a couple. I'm only using Miyuki, Riki, and Phoebe. I've been hearing that Vivian's a popular choice. She's pretty tanky and all that stuff. But in particular, I recommend always having a premier attacker on your team. It doesn't have to be Pan. It can be Saya, it can be Hersey, it can be Mei, whoever you want. I recommend Saya for free to play, but whoever you want your attacker to be, alright? So now that you know like a somewhat upgrade order, let's talk about gear and how you pretty much progress within gear. It's based off of what kind of team you're building, right? I recommend, you know, weapon and accessories if you're dealing more of an attacker team. If you're dealing more with a tank team, then obviously you will work on your chest piece and your sandals and then your accessories, because these 3 pieces of gear will provide you the most tank abilities, alright? Focus on attributes, because attributes are going to be the biggest factor when upgrading gear. You'll notice that I'm, you know, I'm dealing more damage if I'm less than 50%. I'll be like 10% attack. This one's crit rate. This one's like I'm increasing my crit power, and then this one I have a higher chance of increasing my damage rate by 75%, alright? So running gear like that is pretty important in order to maximize your character's capabilities. Next thing is going to be your album. I've pretty much talked about this already, but you know, make sure to raise your intimacy to increase your stats. Make sure to acquire legendary like packs. This is like you essentially acquire all these characters and you activate their abilities where they increase their attack and they synergize off of each other. When you cast them, feel free to look at my album guide to pretty much, you know, see how that fully works. Gonna be the last tips that I have for you and what is pretty much late game looking like. Managing your resources. I'm gonna show a clip of how much it takes to upgrade Pan from 148 to 170. And the requirements for this game is absolutely ridiculous. So I have to say, pace yourself in a way where you know which characters you're going to be maining. Pace yourself in a way so you know which leaders you're going to be using in the future. There's no such thing as a bad leader. This leader's confused with his life, no offense. This is the best leader in the game in the future. You don't have to run him. The only reason why you like him is because he has 2 rounds of invincibility, and those 2 rounds of invincibility usually make or break a stage, and it's hard to steal the invincibility buff from a leader. Specifically, Edward does not have that. But pretty much those are all the tips that I wanted to provide you. Also, for the Halloween event, there is a rotating section of pretty much acquirable stuff. So every single day you have the opportunity to essentially get free stuff. So make sure to go in your like Halloween section and just like tap the characters, and you could be getting free summons and all that stuff. If you have any questions for, you know, how to progress in the game, what's like a good lineup, essentially base it off of your leader and upgrade and put characters in based off of your leader and acquire those leader skills, because those leader skills are going to make or break your team. Because having the capability of dealing, for example, 30% more damage, having more attack or crit rate is going to be the difference between a good team and a non-functional team. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, enter our 5K giveaway, and I will see you in the next one.